Welcome to this channel to hear a new information, story, autography, news and biography. Today we are gonna listen autobiography of Jeff Bezos. Who is Jeff Bezos? Do you know Jeff Bezos? Who know Jeff Bezos? I was born on January 12, 1964, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at a time when my life was far from predictable. My biological father and mother were very young, and circumstances soon led my mother to remarry a Cuban immigrant named Miguel Bezos, who adopted me and gave me his name. From him, I inherited not only my surname, but also a deep respect for perseverance, sacrifice, and gratitude. Watching my stepfather rebuild his life from nothing after immigrating to the United States profoundly shaped my understanding of opportunity. I grew up aware that stability is not guaranteed, and that effort, discipline, and optimism are essential tools for building a future. Even as a child, I was intensely curious about the world. I constantly asked questions and dismantled household items just to see how they worked. I turned my parents' garage into a makeshift laboratory filled with wires, tools, and half-broken machines. I wasn't trying to cause trouble. I was trying to understand systems. That curiosity became a defining trait. I learned early that progress comes from experimentation and that mistakes are often more instructive than success. School came easily to me, particularly subjects involving logic, mathematics, and science. I enjoyed reading science fiction, which expanded my imagination beyond ordinary limits and introduced me to ideas of space, exploration, advanced civilizations, and futuristic technologies. These stories didn't feel fictional to me, they felt inevitable. In high school, I developed an interest in computers at a time when they were not yet common, sensing instinctively that they would transform society. Discovering technology's potential while attending Miami Palmetto Senior High School, I immersed myself in early computer programming and problem solving. I learned how code could create order from complexity. Technology felt like a lever capable of moving the world if used correctly. I also experimented with small entrepreneurial ideas, gaining my first exposure to leadership, responsibility, and risk. Even then, I was driven not just by money, but by the thrill of building something new. In 1982, I enrolled at Princeton University, where I studied electrical engineering and computer science. Princeton demanded rigor, discipline, and precision. I thrived in its environment, pushing myself academically while learning how to think structurally about large, complex systems. My education there sharpened my analytical mindset and taught me to approach problems with long-term thinking. I graduated in 1986, convinced that technology would shape the future in ways most people still underestimated. After Princeton, I moved to New York City and began working in finance, including roles at Bankers Trust and later D.E. Shaw & Co. These years were invaluable. I learned how large-scale organizations function, how data can drive decisions, and how risk can be measured rather than feared. I rose quickly, eventually becoming one of the youngest senior vice presidents at D. Shaw. Yet, despite professional success, I felt restless. I wasn't satisfied optimizing systems that already existed. I wanted to build something entirely new. In the early 1990s, I came across a statistic showing that internet usage was growing at an astonishing rate. That moment changed everything. I realized that this new technology would redefine commerce, communication, and human behavior. I made a list of potential products that could be sold online and analyzed them carefully. Books emerged as the ideal starting point. The decision to leave my stable career was terrifying, but I knew regret would be worse than failure. In 1994, I left Wall Street and moved to Seattle, driving across the country while refining my business plan. I started Amazon in my garage with little more than a vision and relentless determination. The early days were chaotic, long hours, constant problem solving, and countless uncertainties. But I believed deeply in what we were building. Amazon was never just about selling books. It was about creating a customer-centric platform that could scale endlessly. Early challenges and relentless focus. The first years of Amazon were filled with skepticism and logistical nightmares. Many believed online retail was a novelty that would fade. We reinvested every dollar back into growth, prioritizing customer experience over profit. This approach baffled critics, but energized me. I learned that patience and conviction are critical when building something meaningful. Every challenge reinforced my belief in long-term thinking, customer obsession as a principle. From the beginning, I insisted that Amazon be obsessed with customers rather than competitors. This meant listening carefully, innovating constantly, and removing friction wherever possible. We worked to lower prices, improve delivery speed, and expand selection. This philosophy guided every decision and became the foundation of Amazon's culture. I believed that if we earned customer trust, everything else would follow. Amazon expanded beyond books into electronics, clothing, media, and eventually nearly every consumer category. Each expansion was intentional and data-driven. We invested heavily in infrastructure and technology, knowing that scale would reward us later. This willingness to endure criticism and short-term losses allowed Amazon to build capabilities competitors could not easily replicate. One of Amazon's most transformative innovations was Amazon Web Services. Initially created to support our own operations, Oz evolved into a cloud computing platform that empowered startups, enterprises, and governments worldwide. It reinforced my belief that building tools for internal use can often unlock massive external value. AWS became a pillar of Amazon's success and reshaped the global technology landscape. My leadership philosophy emphasizes high standards, clear thinking, and accountability. I expect people to challenge assumptions and embrace experimentation. Failure is not only acceptable, it is necessary. Innovation requires risk, and risk requires resilience. While this approach has drawn criticism, I believe it is essential for building organizations that endure. Throughout my journey, family has grounded me. Balancing intense professional demands with personal responsibilities was never easy, but it taught me perspective. Success means little if it costs you curiosity, humility, or connection. Over time, I learned that leadership also involves listening and evolving. As Amazon grew, so did my public visibility. With influence comes responsibility, and I became increasingly aware of how decisions affect employees, communities, and society. Criticism forced me to reflect, adapt, and improve. Leadership under scrutiny requires resilience and self-awareness. My fascination with space led me to found Blue Origin. I believe humanity's future extends beyond Earth, and that reusable rockets are essential for sustainable space exploration. Blue Origin represents my long-term belief in innovation as a tool for survival and progress. Space is not a luxury, it is a necessity for the future of civilization. Accumulating wealth was never the goal, but it brings responsibility. I began focusing more deliberately on philanthropy, particularly in climate science, education, and long-term human advancement. I believe giving should be thoughtful, strategic, and impact-driven rather than symbolic. In 2021, I stepped down as CEO of Amazon to focus on long-term initiatives. This transition allowed me to think more broadly about innovation, exploration, and legacy. Letting go was difficult, but necessary. Organizations must evolve beyond their founders. If there is one lesson my life reinforces, it is that boldness matters. Regret is more painful than failure. Long-term thinking, intellectual humility, and relentless curiosity are powerful forces. The future belongs to those willing to imagine it, and then work tirelessly to build it. My story is not about arriving at success, but about continuous exploration. From a curious child dismantling machines to launching rockets into space, my life has been guided by imagination and persistence. I remain convinced that innovation, guided by responsibility and optimism, can improve the human condition. The journey continues, and the best chapters are always still ahead. Thank you for listening.